Oh, hi, Anna.
Oh, Anna. No, we
Great.
cannot. We cannot hear you.
But here, that's because you can't speak. Let me promote you to panelist and then you can. Oh, hi, Lori. Great. Here we go. I'm just going to pop everybody up to panelists. We'll have a nice chat amongst ourselves today.
There we go.
Hi, Anna. There we go.
Hi.
I was just trying to get the Facebook live going. So,
Hi,
yeah.
Anna. Hi, Vicky.
Hi, Anna.
Hi, Lori.
There we go. Great. Awesome. Well, I am going to try and keep an eye on Facebook as well as the live streams, as well as us here. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining today. And today's a day for focusing on the details. And it's a day when I was actually able to focus on the details and set this up so that I can actually see everything. I've never had time to do it before. So there's that. That's one of the benefits of having the background frequency supporting us. And I want to make sure I got the detail of I did turn the recording on, so we're good. Anyway, welcome everybody. We'll before we get started here, we'll go back and just say hello to all our panelists today. Anna, do you want to start? How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm good. Lots of details.
Yeah.
Lots of little things going on. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome, welcome. Glad you could join us. And how about you, Leanna?
Yeah, it's fantastic. I felt the 9 move in. Well, I realized it moved in because a friend of mine, the way she was speaking to me, in a good way, going down deep and focusing in on my energy and sharing something that she was thinking about. So I checked it and she was right on time for the 9 and she's got it consciously. And I've got it unconsciously. So obviously she's connecting to it with me. So it's a fun start to the week, really.
That's fantastic. Love to hear those stories of how this shows up for everyone. Thanks, Leanna. Glad to have you here. And Vicky's also joining us from down under where Leanna lives, but they're on opposite sides of Australia. Vicky's an evaluator. Thanks for joining us today, Vicky. Glad to have you here.
Hello, everyone. And I must say, I am enjoying being able to focus on the detail at the moment. So
wonderful. And Lori Baum is also joining us. Hey, Lori, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Just busy with lots of details.
Oh, good. So everyone's busy with the details today. Well, we're all paying on then. That's great. Well, let's take a look at what this trade is really all about then and where we are in the cycle. We're just coming to near the end of November. You can see we're almost at the end of the month, and we've started this at the 44 in the alertness, which was all about us getting an alertness to our own self-expression and allowing us to break through to our own power and focus. So we've come through the alertness and been able to kind of feel what that's like in our survival instincts, and then go through the creative self-expression so that we could really start to see where we are rooted in our own unique directions, and listening to our own inner voice and having some breakthrough maybe in the last few weeks around how we creatively express ourselves through listening to our own inner voice, and then utilizing that breakthrough in our power skills in the 14, be able to have the fuel to empower ourselves and simply by empowering ourselves can sometimes empower others around us as well. And then we moved into the personal power of last week, which felt very strongly by a lot of us, just being able to take that unique self-expression, being alert and aware of our creative self-expression and having that breakthrough and listening to our own inner voice, and then being able to empower ourselves, and then to follow that up with having a week of our own personal power being really heightened and having that strong energy resource available for us to draw on. It was a pretty powerful week last week. And now this week, we're moving into being able to focus now, taking all of that we've learned in the last 3-4 weeks, 5 weeks, it looks like. And being able to really focus it now on the energy for detail. So we went from the power of great last week, feeling our inner strength and our superpowers, into now just really being able to focus in on the small, the energy for the detail. And it's really interesting always to see what grounds are the trait of the day. And what grounds the 9 for details is all about skills, and having the skills you need to focus on the details. And in focusing on the details provides the ability to develop your skills. So it's interesting, the connection there between those 2 traits. So just wondered, is anything anybody want to say about this? Anything come up for anybody sort of reviewing, reflecting on the last 4 weeks of November, now that we're coming to the end of this? We've got a week of being able to really focus ourselves and find the energy for focusing on the details. Is there anything anybody would like to add to this?
I just think it'd be great for people to remember this for next year. The way that these traits flow into one another, and where it can act, or how it can activate, because obviously it activates for each of us differently. But just to have this sort of like sort of reflecting on what this has felt like this season, and of course every year is different, but yeah, just having a sense of it, and then thinking about it for next year, you know, sort of even marking it on your calendar or something, to be aware of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really great when you see it kind of packaged together in the month. To, you know, we've been doing this the whole year, just kind of looking at how each week progresses us through the wheel, through the cycle of the year. And I love that idea. And I loved your idea last week. We had somehow creating a monthly calendar to help us see what's coming ahead of time. So you've inspired me. That's still rolling around in the back of my mind to see what we can create from that. Anything anyone else wanted to add, or where anybody sees?
Yeah, I was going to add, especially in November, you know, it's fall, it's holiday time, at least in the States, you know, people are sort of beginning to, again, in the Northern hemispheres, you know, people are kind of collecting in for the winter. I guess it's different, you know, different season down there. But I was just thinking about in the States, we had Thanksgiving holiday, and it's pure power, and it's also full of detail. When you travel, when you have a big meal with a whole bunch of people, there's a lot of energy and a lot of detail. I just think that's interesting. This is sort of after the actual holiday. I can't remember if it was, did it enter on Thursday? I think it entered on Sunday. I don't remember, but
What's today? Tuesday? Yeah. I think it's the 2 today. So it would have started yesterday and on Monday, I believe.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was
Anyway.
on a personal level, my daughter has the 9, both of my son and daughter have the 9, I have the 52. We'll get into that later.
Mm-hmm.
But she's still in the middle of moving. And, you know, the chaos of a move, you have this sort of big vision, and then all these details, labeling boxes, getting them tape for the boxes, you know, throwing stuff out, making piles, all this stuff is just very interesting. You know, the demand for focus or not. I was standing around yesterday at one point. I said, honey, you know, give me a clue. I can pack something. I can sort something. She said, because I have the 52, she said, Mom, this your cousin is helping me. And I thought, oh, we connect, you know, this energy of the 52 being still, and then her running around crazy trying to cover all these details. I thought, oh, That's a very interesting comment.
Yes. Yeah, that just your presence, just your energy being there. Yeah, that's cool. Awesome. Okay, well, let's look at what this is in a little more detail, and then we can carry on talking about it. So this is about focus and the taming the power of the small. This potential can be fulfilled through detailed attention to all pertinent aspects. And logic demands determination and continued experimentation. Like a funnel, this trait focuses the enormous power to concentrate on what's meaningful and worthwhile for us. We can zero in for long periods of time on the detailed aspects of a project or an issue, and can probably test or assess formulas for yourself and others. Oh, I thought there was one more line there. So this is really that ability to really hone in on things and looking at. I also don't have this trait. My husband has it though, and I have the 52. So often what happens is when he's focusing on the details, he often needs me to come and stand in the room with him, just like you were talking about, Anna. He'll call me over when he gets stuck, when the things are too confusing or chaotic, too many details. Just my presence of standing over his shoulder and letting him talk to me about it clarifies it for him and helps him finalize the details that he's working on. So I understand that dynamic with your daughter. And how about Leanna or Lori or Vicky? Do either of you have the 9 or the 52?
I don't have the 9 or the 52, but I have 3 clients with it. And I've noticed something really interesting in each of them, which is they can focus on something with tremendous power, with superpowers. But then I've noticed, and I don't know if others have noticed this, they lose perspective. They see the big picture still, but their one focus gets really out of proportion. So maybe it's something for us to all be aware of right now, but the details can become huge to them. And they may make decisions that will sacrifice the big picture for the detail. I don't know if others have noticed that, but I've noticed that they tend to do that.
That's really interesting. I think about working with my husband, that definitely is the case at times. He can get really zeroed in. It's almost like you can't see the forest for the trees, get too caught up in all of the little details and forget to stand back. It takes a little while to unwind that and pull back. But that's really great thing that you've noticed, Lori. Thanks for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome. I have some great examples when we get to that part of the.
Great. Excellent. Yeah. How about Leanna or Anna or Vicky? Do you have the 9 in your design? I think, yeah.
I've got the 9. I've got the 9 unconscious.
Right. Yes.
And I do love focusing on the small. Like I love the big. Obviously, an advisor, we go big.
Yeah.
But I love creating with the small, the placement of things, the organization of things, like the ability to focus. Like I work with an efficient builder. My partner's an efficient builder. I'm surrounded by them, of course, as an advisor. And they don't tend to the they can, but I can notice, I like to tend to the small. I like to tend. So it's like just fill in the gaps even. Or almost like if the analogy would be my man washes the dishes, or someone on my team in my workplace. Let's do that one. This is true as well. They wash the dishes. But then I notice that the dishes actually need a good detailing. They haven't been detailed for a while. They haven't been extra cared for, or given that extra bit of attention and care. So I feel that, like I notice all that stuff. I notice the things. So I feel like that could be the 9. But I love the determination. and focused to apply focused concentration, because that is what gets things done.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Leanna. And I love just the fact that you're an advisor. My experience with advisors has been that you guys notice so much more detail already as advisors, your energy being so focused already. And then to have the details on top of that in your design to be able to then take it to even the next level. I just had a friend over on last weekend, and she's an advisor, and her house is immaculate. She loves beautiful things. And we just got a new hot tub put in, and we're so excited to share it with them. And we opened the lid, and the only thing she could see was there was a little dirt around the rim of the roof. I was like, oh my God, I thought I cleaned it all, because I know she's really fussy that way. But she zeroed right in on this little tiny black speck on the roof. And so
Goodness.
I know the power of the advisor, even, and my daughter's an advisor as well. And she does have the 9 as well. So your ability to be able to focus in, and I love the way you said that, care for the details, give them some attention, put the attention and focus on the details, because you know what, the devil's in the details. You might think the big picture is covered off every scenario, but it's when you go to do the details that everything reveals itself, that all of the little things you weren't aware of show up. And then you need to decide, what do we do with this little detail? And so having someone who can focus on that and know what to do with the details, and how to actually test and assess, or continue to experiment with those details to figure out how they all fit into the bigger picture. I think it's an amazing laser-like focus to have. Really helpful.
To add on to what Laura was saying, 100% one of the ways I use this one with work or with teams in the relational field is I contract. So I definitely go, hey, I've noticed in me that I want to detail this, or I want to go and focus on this. So I bring it to the team, and then I say, who has energy for it as well? Because often most teams won't have energy for this, like for that focus. It won't be a shared focus, right? So then I contract either control, as in I get permission to hone in on the thing and create the thing. And then we kind of contract check-ins as well, because it is a rabbit hole type of thing. And it really does, I think, need to be contracted, because not everyone wants to put their energy into the same thing that the 9 would call out, in me.
Yeah, good point. How about anyone else?
To segue with what each of you said, when Lori was talking about kind of losing the big picture, and then Leanna was talking about, the determination and focusing in, missing those, being able to see those pieces. And again, kind of going back to my daughter and my son, they can both detail things to death, but then they get really scattered when it comes to the bigger things. They get overwhelmed with, like my daughter does arts and crafts and stuff, and she made me this beautiful little keychain with all these little dangles and fetishes and pretty little things. And I watched her, she can be a space case, I guess that's what you'd call it. But making this keychain, she was just so diligent and so beautiful, and she was experimenting, and she'd take it apart and then re-put it back together. I was like, whoa, that really is focus, and just the articulation that it took to make all these tiny little parts. And kind of test it, see it, do I like it? And then take it apart. I mean, she spent like an hour and a half, just on these pretty little things.
Mm.
And then yet, we had to go somewhere. It was like she couldn't, get her stuff together. She couldn't find her shoes. I mean, that kind of stuff. So it's just
Yeah.
interesting. The power of the small can really get your attention. And if
Mm.
it's not coordinated with maybe the 52 or other things, she also is a unconscious express builder. So she has all this energy that when it's not focused, it just
Mm.
spreads out everywhere. And she's figuring all that out, but it's a very interesting contrast.
Yeah, wow, that's another great example. And just seeing how much energy can go into this focus and have us kind of get lost there. You kind of reminded me, I don't have the 9, but I have the 52, so I can sit still in stillness for a long time. One of the things I've always done is knit or crochet, and that is totally lost in the details. And I can get so focused on it that my eyes are blurry when I pull away. And it's kind of that concept. You get so focused on the details that when you go to see far away, it's like you can't see the big picture anymore. Your eyes are kind of blurred over. So that's a really great point in all of this.
I think that's a
And-
beautiful almost example of when it's understanding the detail for the detail in itself can also influence what the big picture will be when you've done the fundamental work in that detail. So if it's entered into
Yes.
correctly and it changes things, then it's actually
Yes.
the way the big picture needs to move.
And I think, and
Wow.
that is so powerful, Boom.
Mhm.
That even makes me feel even stronger about contracting when you're using this in a group situation that's going to impact the group field.
Hmm.
100%.
Interesting.
Because
Yeah.
it does really affect the big picture. And I know that for like when I apply this at work, it absolutely, I'm intending to affect the big picture with my
Interesting.
small care. Yeah, fascinating.
Wow. Yeah, that is fascinating. And it just, the analogy popped into my mind that I've made several large blankets. Has been a lot of my projects. And when you're taking each little step, each stitch that you're building are like focusing on the details. And the way the blanket turns out can be completely different depending on whether I missed a stitch or I put the wrong color in somewhere, or I changed my mind partway through and put a different color in. I love that Vicki, that it does change the big picture. Every step you take, every little detail you add to it does change and affect the bigger field. That's wonderful. Thanks for sharing that, Vicki. Lori, anything else you wanted to add here?
I think it's fascinating because we are under the sign of Sagittarius, which is about the big picture, but we're talking about the details. And I love the point Leanne and Vicki made about that those little points really do affect the big picture. Whereas I don't know, in the 62, another one of the detail gates, I'm not sure it's maybe it doesn't radiate out as much, but I can see how the 9 would, because it's the format, it would influence the whole way things go.
Yeah, the format energy. Another good point that, this is where all the energy starts, is in these format energies. And that's a really good point. And the 62 can be about details. It's actually a lot about facts. In terms of details, it's the facts more so than the actual details. The word details gets used in both places. But that's a great thing to contrast and show the difference between.
It's almost like the 9 is a plant, so it's got to deal with all the little details of the seed breaking down and the roots growing, and then it comes above the ground and it spreads out and it becomes huge. So it's
right.
the interesting
And
part of it.
Yeah,
and
sending energy through the whole system. Yes, right, Leanne?
Oh, I love its placement in connection to breakthrough, personal power, and then focus. Because obviously we talked about breakthrough a couple weeks ago, where the breakthrough is often clarifying a change or clarifying a movement or a pivot or a new awareness. New awareness often births change or, new information. And I just love that the focus sits where it does. Like I'm really enjoying, but I am a Saggy. So I find that people do tend to love their time of year when all their traits and their birthdays online and whatnot, their astrology sign. But I'm really loving the focus, the placement of this. And even if someone doesn't have it, obviously we're all being impacted, as we know, to be able to apply the focus, which I actually love to point out. If you are finding in your work and or home environments, that if you have the 9 and you are feeling that you do not have the space or the time to focus on something, because it's obviously an energetic, it obviously has a pressure in it and a desire. So if you don't get to activate a focus because there's too much going on, there's too much noise, or you can't slow down enough to either focus on things professionally or personally, when you don't get to activate focus and you have it, it can be painful, frustrating, and obviously it's coming out of the sacral, isn't it?
It's heading into the sacral, the format energy.
Yes. So I get frustrated when I don't have an opportunity to dance with my 9, because I have, and especially when I was as a working mother, I've had times where I'm yearning to be able to sit down and focus on something. Or stand, like do whatever, but just to get the space to focus. So just to highlight, if you've got the 9, being able to honor that you do need to have the space to work with this at times. You don't have to do it every day, but you need your fix almost, I would say.
Interesting. Yeah. To be able to focus on the details. And that makes sense. If you don't get an opportunity to focus on the details, being that it's connected directly to the energy resource and is part of what fuels the rest of your system, it can lead to a lot of frustration for sure. Yeah, good point, Leanna. Thanks. So just, we've already covered everyone here who either, Leanna is the only one who has the 9. Anna, you don't have it? Do you have the 52?
The 52. Yeah.
Oh, great. And Lori, you have the 52? No, you don't have either. We have clients. Yes. Client stories. Great.
There's another point I just thought of when Leanna said something in mental health and terms we throw around. A lot of people with the 9 get accused of either being scattered or ADHD. Because they get labeled, whether that's a diagnosis or not, but they can focus. When you have a certain kind of brain, you can focus on details, but you can't really organize them. When you're talking about the 62, you can kind of organize facts and information,
right?
Details, sort of put them in order or put them together somehow. But this is different. This is like a bunch of scattered things. Like I noticed with my son, he can, my computer died last week, and he could take it apart, these tiny little screwdrivers and stuff. And I was like, really? Because otherwise, he can't clean his room and stuff like that, but he could do all these tiny little things. I was like, oh, okay. I'm impressed, So it depends on, where the focus is, what it's for, because a lot of times people with ADHD especially get accused of not being able to handle things, but they're selectively focused, like on really small parts of things, and very creative. So.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I often wonder too how much the different elements of our designs and the way we communicate, the way our brain functions, the different traits we've got, how much that plays into what currently gets diagnosed with different disorders, just based on people's observation of what they can see people doing. But having this extra layer of information really, to me, provides a basis or a foundation to start with, to show how a person's design may actually be, part of who they are. And it's really about understanding who they are and how they're doing things. And just because they're not doing them the same way everybody else is doing them, just means they maybe aren't as conditioned as everybody else, or they're, different things going on in their design. So I think it's beautiful that we're coming into this time where the individual is having a lot more focus, and that we can see that broadening throughout the way we talk about these things, even that there's nothing wrong with people that have different things going on. It's just, how can we understand how you do things in a different way? And what are some things we can help with? And I believe that understanding a person's design is really, really helpful as a foundational piece, regardless of anything else that might get layered on top of it that can also be helpful. So thanks for pointing that out, Anna. Okay, I'm just going to move along then to how you get affected when we're connected. So what this looks like, the shadow of this trait. So when you don't have the 9, this can be a lack of focus to concentrate. So this is me. I have the 52, but I don't have the 9. I do this several times a day, actually, putting my pencil in my, no, I don't. I do other things. I just realized how often I have to get up and walk around, or break my state, or find my way to focus. So again, this can be something that people get maybe misdiagnosed sometimes as having ADHD. I've felt my entire life that I've got ADHD, and it's talk amongst our whole family, and we think our whole family has it. And now that I understand how all of this works, I'm seeing it show up in each of our designs in different ways. So do you find it hard to focus? Do you lack the self-discipline to withdraw into your stillness and concentrate? The problem is you might find yourself vacillating between restlessness and depression, bouncing from one thing to the next, unable to find the self-discipline to withdraw into your stillness and concentrate. You might find it's difficult to know what activity or details to concentrate on. You might find there's no physical outlet that can help you direct or relieve this passive tension within you, except to focus it. And the solution is you're designed to work with others who can help you gain the focus you need to relieve the internal tension and pressure, giving the ability to truly sit still and concentrate. So this is really fascinating, because I know that my husband notices this in me. He has the 9, and he quite often helps me focus. I can sit still for quite long periods of time, though, and get totally lost in something, but it's also part of the way I communicate. It's in my design in that way as well. I can sit still and look like and be completely zoned out and off in my head. I've got the strength of imagination, so I daydream a lot. But what I find more affects me is that I can see all the details flying around me that need to be done, and I have trouble pinning them down and focusing on one at a time. I'll jump from one to the next. I'll focus on one for a few seconds and then feel like, no, I better go do that other one, or I better do this one, or I better do that one. I eventually get them all done, but they're very scattered in the way they get done. Picking one detail and following it right through is where I find I have a hard time focusing. And that's where it's helpful. When my husband and I are working on things together, he really literally keeps me focused on that one thing until it's done. And to me, that feels uncomfortable for me to do that, actually, which is partially why I think I need to jump around and do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, a little bit of that. So I don't know, how does that show up for others of you? That Anna, you've got the 52?
Yeah, I can relate to this part that says you may find that there's no physical outlet that can help you direct it. I find, because I can do detail, I can concentrate, and I love stillness. But there's a certain point at which I have to move. I have to physically do something, or my brain is just can't do anymore. It just won't. The synapses aren't there. They're not firing.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I read long enough, I thought long enough, I wrote, I mean, the sort of the focus, like you said, your eyes get blurry after focusing. I find I need to go take a walk. I need to go play with cats. Since I work at home, sometimes I'll just get up, move around, do the dishes, go do an errand and come back to something, because I get all, I just need that physical expression along with all the concentration. Need to kind of dissipate the energy through my body, not just, my frame of state of mind.
Yes. Yes, I totally hear you. I agree with that. That happens for me as well. I can focus for a period of time, and sometimes it's for quite a long time. I can sit for 3 or 4 hours focusing on multiple details, but then I do need to kind of break state and get up and walk around and go do something and come back refreshed. So yeah, I feel that one too. That's that's reality. And Lori, you had some examples you wanted to share.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that I also have that. I don't, because I'm not defined at all there. I guess I get conditioned in a lot of details. I don't know which to focus on first. And I end up responding to who needs me first. And I can't, I have to really step back to set priorities. And that's a bit of a challenge, but with, for some reason, I do have a number of clients with a 9. And I've noticed a thread between all of them, which is an expertise in their area of focus, and sometimes a loss of the big picture. And I have one client who's obsessed with horses, and all she wanted in her life was to have a stable with horses. And she met a man who had a lot of money, who said he would get the stable for her. And but he was very abusive, and everybody tried to stop her from marrying. Her parents even offered to give her money to not marry him, but she did. And now, many years later, they're still together. He's still abusive, but she has her horses, and she'll admit that he's abusive and that she shouldn't probably stay with him, but she puts the horses over the humans in this case. And so I just thought it's a really interesting way that the 9's mind must work to be able to give greater value to a detail than to the bigger relationship, let's say. And then I have another client he has the 952, and he's a naturopath. And so he's obsessed with what foods to eat. And for example, he wouldn't eat a heat dried almond, only an air dried almond. But he would sit in a room with a toxic gas leak for 8 hours to meditate or something, and not be able to see the health effects of one versus the other. So there's a real, sense of perspective or proportion that I imagine in their mind, they're seeing the proportions bigger than other people might be.
Yes, love.
Yeah, very interesting. That's really interesting dynamic that you've brought forward. It's kind of like the details are magnified for them. Like a magnify. It reminds me of how, I don't know why this pops to mind, but in your mouth, your tongue has far more sense of the details of your teeth in your mouth than anything else. It magnifies everything, all those tiny little details. A tiny little itty bitty little hole can feel like a huge crater. Kind of a similar sort of perspective of the details are almost bigger than life, and being able to step back and see that big picture again is takes a little bit of effort and awareness around that. So thanks for sharing, Lori.
Oh, you're welcome. I do have one more that.
Oh, sure. Okay.
If we have time. This third client is the local political activist, let's say, and he will find one issue. His issue is housing, let's say, on the local scene, and he just will zoom in on a candidate that agrees with him, but the candidate can be completely insane otherwise. Yeah.
Interesting.
He'll just go to the mat for that person, and his people never win because they always have a fatal flaw somehow. But they do agree with him on one point. And I mean, he'll stay up hours or half the night just to expound on the virtues of this one issue for that person. So I just find it's interesting how information can get distorted, but there's really a heartfelt part of that conviction that with the detail, with whatever the 9 concludes.
Yeah, very interesting, fascinating. Thanks so much for those examples, Lori. It's really gives you something to be aware of. I'm just wondering, anything else from Anna or Leanna or Vicky around the having the 52? Or Vicky, what do you see? You have the whole channel open too, did you say? The whole strength?
Yeah, I'm completely open here. I've just checked. My sister has the strength though, so obviously a builder. So yeah, she would, as has been mentioned, the things that she would fixate on would just have me and the rest of the family going, what? So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, that not being able to see the forest for the trees is a really interesting pattern we're seeing here, a theme here. Leanna, did you have something else you wanted to say?
Yeah, well, I'll just speak for just the pro. Yeah, I'll give you an example. So I have a wellness center, and I could feel that my colleagues did not have a focus on what it would look like, say, for example, the style. Or maybe they did, but I certainly felt I had a stronger focus and a stronger attachment to the details. So I, single-handedly, but contracted with them first, 100% contracted, because this has power, right? Contracted with them, and then I put in the time, the effort, and I did the focus for 3 months to build, and do the interior design for this. And that absolutely, the way it looks and the energy that was put in by me into that, and the agreement that my colleagues made to let me do it, that all contributed to hugely to who we attract, to our branding message, to our target market. So I love this because this is both, so that is both an opportunity and a liability, depending on how this is contracted or worked out amongst the group. So if I'm in a group and I'm dog-eared about something and no one else cares,
right,
then that's a choice point, And another thing that I use with this one is majority rules. So I use a majority rules if everyone doesn't want it, but I do want to focus on that, but the majority rules does not, then I concede.
Yeah, that's
So
wonderful.
That's a strategy.
Yeah, that's wonderful to point that out, because I know from other training too that something that brings conflict is getting too caught up in the details. It's usually at the level of detail that people disagree. The bigger picture things we can agree on because they're more ambiguous. But the more we dive down into the deeper details, that's where you're going to meet conflict. That's where you're going to have difference of opinions. So it is a really important thing you point out, Leanna, that when you're dealing with these kinds of details, to have some kind of agreement in place around how you're going to deal with the details, because they can cause a lot of tension and cause a lot of conflict and cause some upset with people, because that's often where people just can't agree at that level. So that's really, really important point. Thanks for.
When I did mediation with people, you're exactly right. That's what happened. The bigger picture might look similar, but there would be some particular thing in there in the conversation because it had to do with values and what what they valued, where they held it, all that kind of stuff. But, politics,
Mhm.
all of that stuff, negotiating treaties, all that stuff. I mean, it
Mhm.
is very much in the detail. And I was looking at this picture. It takes some concentration to keep your pencil there. I mean, it
Funny.
It
takes
does
some
actually.
attention to detail to, put yourself in that position. But it also made me laugh. I mean, there is a lot of creative energy here. There's a silliness. There's like, like a good comedian has the
Mm,
timing and put certain details in that might just go right over the audience's head. But this detail to swing it back around to what all of you said, the detail and how that's formulated affects the outcome, the punchline of the joke or the silliness,
yeah.
maybe she can't concentrate because she doesn't have the physical outlet, but here's this little physical outlet that she's playing with. I think
Yeah.
it's a funny little picture.
Yeah, that's so great, Anna, that you pointed that out, because good comedy is attention to details, the setup, the focusing on all the little pieces that need to be there. Otherwise, you know what it's like when someone tries to tell a joke and they haven't got all the right details. The punchline just, oh crap, I messed that up. And it just falls flat. So making sure all the little pieces are in place and the attention has been given to them. So, wow, this has been a wonderful discussion today. Thank you all for everything you've contributed. And I'll just ask you to take a few minutes while I go through the next few slides to think about what you want to leave people thinking about for what to focus on for the rest of the week. So if you're new to BG5 Live or just joining us for the first time, or if you just haven't had an opportunity to do this yet, you can get a free report from our website. And we also have our full reports on sale. They're typically $89. They're on sale for $69 now. And you can use this coupon code of report20 when you check out. Or you can also sign up for the BG5 Live, the trade of the day, where you'll get that delivered to your inbox. So you'll know what the background frequency is that's impacting us, and have some details about what the trade is about, and then join us here on BG5 Live to chat about it and see how this actually shows up in real life for people. You can also watch our past episodes in our free resource library and on YouTube. And we've got our courses and programs are all starting new in January. We've got foundation and certification starting, and we'll have foundation courses starting. All of our courses start in January, May, and September, and we will be offering some extra foundation courses in the months in between. So if you're contemplating getting started and looking at taking certification, or even just taking the foundation to understand more about yourself and your unique design, the foundation course is the place to start there. So thank you all for joining us today, and just want to ask the panel then, maybe Vicki, can we?
Yeah, I am looking forward to being able to focus on the small details, especially today at my job. I've got to knock up a report and put all the detail in to summarize it. So I'm pretty excited by that. And I also love the fact it's grounded in skills. So we haven't really touched on that, but that detailed focus is grounded in having or creating and practicing the skills of whatever it is you're focused on. So hope everyone enjoys the week.
Thank you.
all.
Thank you so much, Vicki, for being here with us. Thanks so much. And who would like to go next? Lori?
I would just say, so let's all try to keep the details in perspective so we can stay balanced during this week.
Yes. Thanks, Lori. That was great awareness you brought today with that. Thanks for joining us. And Anna, how about you?
I would just suggest you pay attention to what gets you focused.
Mm,
What what you tending to focus on, and is that really the energy you have? I mean, it might be habit, it might be, the transit might bring out a focus on details, but like Vicky just said, are you happy being able to focus on that thing? Or are you just focused there and it's not really productive? I would just say, where is your focus?
Yeah, wonderful. Awesome. Thanks, Anna. Leanna.
Oh, that was so good, Anna. That brought me to working together to find the productive focus, because I really just want to say, or to invite people to look at who's got the 9, because it's very powerful. It can be used, like, for example, in mine, what's the number one thing that everyone says when they come to our space is how beautiful it is. Right? And we're known for it. So it's given us an edge in the market. So find out who's got the 9, recognize them for it, inform them that they've got it, invite them to use it for common good. So, and once you're naming it and you help them be aware of it, or you've got it yourself, bring that into conversations with your teams and your people, so that and invite the dialogue, so that if you are getting dog-eared, it can be called out. And also, because the other side of that, and it also can be honored, because it's fantastic. And if people can use it for common good, then it's going to make a massive impact on the business for positive.
Beautiful, Leanna. Thank you so much for your wise words, and everyone on the panel today. I think it's been wonderful. I've more showed up around this than I was expecting. More detail came out than I was expecting. And I think just overall, being able to recognize, as Lori said, that sometimes we can get too focused on the details and get caught up in them and lose the big picture. And like Leanna mentioned, being able to understand who's got the ability to dive into the details and who can utilize those for the greater good, the betterment of the whole team or group you're working with, and to be aware that being in the details can sometimes cause some conflict. So just building some awareness around that this week, to recognize what's happening around you and whether you're hearing people utilizing the details in a way that's going to help everybody, or in a way that's maybe causing some tension. Being able to hear when people are butting heads over details, and allowing them to kind of come back up out of them a little bit to gain some more perspective before going back in and discussing them again, is also something that is really useful to be able to just even be aware of this week. So yes, thank you everyone on the panel today for all your great stories and sharing and perspectives. Love that we have one of each type on our panel. Vicky's the evaluator. Lori, I think you're a classic builder. Are you? Anna's initiator, and Leanna's an advisor. I'm also a classic builder. Thanks so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Shelley.
Thanks, Vicky. Thanks so much for being here, you guys. And Andy, I hear you're here. Let me promote
I
you.
have to run. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. No worries. Oh, Leanna's gone now too.
Okay.
Well, thanks, Anna. Thanks for being here. It was fun chatting. Oh, you're muted. Yeah. Oh, there you are.